Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Recently I made a community post where I asked you guys to submit your Wings of Fire hot takes for the chance to be in an upcoming video. So today I'll be reading some of my personal favorites and ones I honestly find myself agreeing with. A hot take is a really strong opinion about something that could prove to be controversial, seeing as it doesn't align with what most people think on the matter. Now, before you head into the comments to angrily rant about how you believe the opposite of someone, just know that we all have opinions and different perspectives, and that's okay. Before we begin, a huge shout out to my patrons, DeckLover95, 3 Moons, and Slightest Wild. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Keep in mind this video does have spoilers for Darkness of Dragons and the books before it, so if you haven't yet read up to that book yet, then please click off. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into reading these hot takes. The first one was submitted by Lily Beth Walters, and it's about how Winter was really the hero of Arc 2. Honestly, I think Winter deserves way more credit than he gets for this great character development and realistic traits. Plus, he was the only one who managed to knock some sense into 𝙒𝙬 when he was actually starting to rationalize Darkstalker's behavior. For Winter, Darkness of Dragons may have been a lot different. He deserves some credit. The second is by Misanthropic Mink, discussing how the Eye of Onyx was a really cheap way to end Arc 1. And really, I can sort of agree with this in a way. I think the Eye of Onyx itself was a good way to end the arc, especially because there weren't really many options. My problem comes with the fact that Tui never set up the Eye as being a thing. Even just 1 or 2 mentions in the previous book sort of made a lot more sense and actually set it up. Instead, it felt like an afterthought. So while I don't necessarily have a problem with it being used to end the conflict, it should have been teased. It really just came out of nowhere, seeing as the only mention of it was in the finale, The Brightest Night. This next one was sent in by Anubis Dragon, and it's about how Icicle wasn't really as much of a villain as fans made her out to be. To be honest, I can't agree with this more. I've done a video in the past explaining why Icicle doesn't really deserve to be villainized. If anything, Sora's more of a villain in that situation. Why? Well, context matters. Icicle killed Crane during a war. It was just a regular battle, and all she was tasked to do was kill the enemy. It wasn't anything personal, and Crane wasn't defenseless. I know the Muddings don't have a choice as to whether or not they fight in the war, but this bit of context does explain a lot of things on Icicle's part, and deserves to be acknowledged. It wasn't a targeted attack by any means. It was just an average battle. Sora hated an entire tribe and wanted to kill Icicle just because her sister died during the war. Icicle, on the other hand, was emotionally manipulated by Scarlet and verbally abused by her family. While it doesn't excuse her actions of trying to kill the Drag to Destiny, it does explain them. And the same goes for Sora. For people to say Sora is innocent but Icicle is evil is just messed up. If anything, they're both on the same level. You can't let one character who seems to be nicer change your opinion on what they actually did or tried to. This fourth hot take was submitted by 1001 Susan, and it's on the topic of how Winter's friends treat him. I hadn't really thought about it too much before this, but she's totally right. It's always kind of frustrated me how everyone refused to tell Winter what they did with Darkstalker. I understand they were worried he would react negatively to him being given a second chance, but still. They literally refused to tell Winter what they did to Darkstalker, and it's something that sort of bothers me. We've seen how much his character has grown. While he might have been initially angered by learning Darkstalker was now a peacemaker, he would eventually calm down and possibly even understand the decision. They can't just automatically assume he'll burst out in a rage. It's not like he's going to hurt Peacemaker once he meets him. It just feels unfair, especially seeing how much Winter did for his friends, and how much he participated in Darkstalker's defeat. And honestly, I could totally see Winter being enraged at first, but eventually we could see a scene of him introducing Peacemaker to the scavengers he's working with. That would be so cool, and great development for Winter to see him like that. Cinnamon Creates commented that Kinkajou was overrated, along with other criticism, and all I can say to this is, yes. Just yes. I have such a big love-hate relationship with Kinkajou, to the point where I have to ask myself every other page, do I like her or not? This is not something you want a reader to have to ask himself about a character who's meant to be an optimistic hero. Like Cinnamon Crate said, if there was a book on her, it probably wouldn't be any good. Yet another one about winter was sent by Lemon Bell. It's on the topic of winter turning being an incredibly boring book. I can agree that this one was definitely one of the weakest in the arc. Nothing memorable happened other than everything going on with the Hailstorm/Pyrite stuff and the scenes of the Diamond Trial and Foe Slayer. Other than that, it could easily be skipped over. It was really uneventful and actually felt like filler. Dumper 92 brought up how all the Arc 1 ships besides Starspeaker aren't any good. I couldn't agree more. And honestly though, I'm not even a fan of Starspeaker. The relationship just feels like Fatespeaker loving Starflight and Starflight being so emotionally distant. It's almost like he doesn't like her back, and that's kind of sad for a main character, canon ship. But all the Arc 1 ships are horrible. Peril and Clay is toxic, as Clay doesn't even like Peril in that way, and she needs more time to understand romantic love. Tsunami and Riptide have only one or two scenes where they show any chemistry. Glory and Deathbringer, even outside of the controversy, just isn't all that interesting. And then there's my problem with Starspeaker that I mentioned earlier. I'm really glad Tui improved the ships in Arcs 2 and 3, but they've never really been the best part of the series. Something that was mentioned by Light of the Fandoms made me remember a nitpick I had when originally reading Arc 1 for the first time. Glory being royalty was way too big of a stretch. Tsunami being royalty makes sense, seeing as Webb stole her egg for the royal hatchery specifically. But with Glory's case, she was chosen randomly and just so happened to have royal blood. I mean, come on. Seriously? After the events of Arc 1, technically 3 out of 5 of the Dragonettes of Destiny are royalty. What? Glory being descended from the original line of queens was far too big of a coincidence and felt ridiculous that nobody is talking about it. But anyway, that's wraps up this video. Do you agree with any of these hot takes, or do you have ones of your own? Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!